On today's episode of the Cryptoverse, we have the first ever ICO hosted on the Ethereum Classic blockchain, and BIP100 proposes to implement a dynamic block size that adjusts every time the mining difficulty adjusts. So we'll get into that on today's episode of the Cryptoverse. Stay tuned. Hi there guys, and welcome to the latest episode of the Cryptoverse, your regular dose of news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains. I am your host, Chris Coney. I'm also the founder of Cryptoversity.com, the online school where you can learn about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains. You can find out more about that at Cryptoversity.com. And also today we have the July competition is now active. If you want to win yourself a copy of the Secrets of the Bitcoin Triangle course, click the link in the video description, click on that big green button that says enter the free prize draw now, and you'll be entered with a chance to win at the end of the month when I draw the next winner. I drew the last winner on the weekend, and it was a fella called John, so he's been sent his details to claim his prize. If you want to be next, go and enter that competition. So this is the news show of the Cryptoverse. So we're going to look at the top stories for today. I have one minor story and one major story to talk about. Let's begin with the minor story. So the minor story, not minor as in Bitcoin minor as in small, is this. It is the first ever initial coin offering on the Ethereum Classic blockchain. So Postalgia is the project, and they specifically quote here on their webpage, immutability is one of their values, and they say this is why they have chosen to create an ERC20 based token called Poster on the Ethereum Classic blockchain. Very interesting. That's the benefit of having the two, right? Because Ethereum Classic and Ethereum Core both have sort of different, what should we call them, constitutions, I guess. So anyway, Postalgia is an app that basically allows you to select photos on your phone and then have them professionally printed and then mailed to you. All right, so you don't have to store them on your phone or accidentally delete them and so on. They're also going to allow people to pay for this service in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Poster tokens. And then later on, they plan to develop a system where you can upload your photos and then basically copyright them on the Ethereum Classic blockchain. Pretty cool, that. Now, the thing I wanted to highlight a bit about this whole thing, though, is not so much the app or what it does, is the fact that this ICO is being done on Ethereum Classic. So I'm very interested to see how this goes, given that they have a maximum market cap down here. Minimum is 20,000 Ethereum. That's right in there. And then the maximum is 100,000 Ethereum. Now, this is ETC, remember? So anyone who wants to pledge to this ICO will need to buy some ETC, some Ethereum Classic. And depending on how popular this ICO is, it may well push the price of Ethereum Classic up because it's going to create demand when people want to pledge to this particular ICO. Very interesting to see that. Also very interesting to see how the Ethereum Classic network handles a big old ICO if it becomes one. Let's see how it handles that from a capacity point of view. So I thought that was kind of interesting for a minor story. Let's now get on to the major story for today, which is BIP100 proposes to implement a dynamic block size voted by miners. So let's begin here on CoinDance. So on CoinDance, they have a block page which shows all the statistics for the various Bitcoin improvement proposals and the current level of support each one of them is enjoying. Excuse me. The current leader by a mile is SegWit2x, which currently has 85% support from miners and only needs 80% support in order to activate. So yesterday, actually, the beta code for SegWit2x was released, so the community can now start scrutinizing that and see if there's any bugs or any obvious flaws with that. But this whole thing about having a dynamic block size, the first thing I'll say about this is this feature isn't exactly new. It's a feature that Bitcoin Unlimited came up with, I believe. And actually the date on the proposal on GitHub, which I can show you here, I'll link this in the sources as always, but right at the top of BIP100, it says it was created in 2015. So definitely not a new proposal. The difference, I guess, and the reason why this is now newsworthy is because the miners can now start voting for this. So on CoinDance in particular, it says that voting for this proposal will begin shortly. It says it right there. And then it links to the GitHub repository. So the difference with it being voted for now is that instead of voting for the entire, say, Bitcoin Unlimited proposal, this BIP100 is just specifically the dynamic block size thing. So miners can just vote to activate that specific feature. And this is proposing to allow the block size on the Bitcoin network to change dynamically based on a miner vote. So it could increase and it could decrease. So it means the block size will be flexible, and based on consensus from the miners, it will grow or shrink. So one of the things I thought about is this kind of reminds me about Ethereum's flexible gas limit, where miners can vote to increase or decrease the maximum gas limit depending on network conditions and depending on how miners feel, right? Now, according to what I've read on this GitHub article here about BIP100, which is a Bitcoin improvement proposal, each time a miner mines a block, right, they can vote to set the block size anywhere from 1 megabyte all the way up to 9 megabytes. So they can vote 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 megabytes. And then they can change that vote. So say if the current block size was 4 megabytes and enough miners voted and signaled that they wanted 3 megabyte blocks, well then at the end of the period, the block size would be reduced from 4 to 3. Now you might ask, well, how does it get changed? Well, the block gets the block size, this vote gets triggered every 2016 blocks. That's roughly 2 weeks. It's 14 days. Given that a 10-minute block size on Bitcoin, 216 blocks, it's about 2 weeks. And that frequency, 216 blocks, is the same frequency that the Bitcoin protocol uses to adjust the mining difficulty. Except the mining difficulty adjusts automatically based on the current hash rate rather than by vote, which is what this block size thing would be doing. So the miners don't have any control over the difficulty adjustment, but they would have a control over the block size changes. The point is that it would happen every 216 blocks. So every 2 weeks, we could see the block size changing, getting bigger or getting smaller based on the current vote. So then the next question is, well, how many miners have to agree? Well, in order for the block size to change, 75% of the blocks mined within any given period have to signal the same block size for it to happen. So we would need 75% of the blocks to say we want to move to 4 megabyte blocks. And if 75% of the blocks agreed to that and signaled for 4 megabytes, at the end of the period, at the end of the 216 blocks, it would change the block size dynamically to 4 megabytes. And then that could change whenever. Now, there's another thing in the proposal. It says if a miner doesn't vote at all, the system will assume they are voting to keep the current block size the way it is. So that's an important thing to note. If you abstain, that's still a vote for the current block size, right? Another thing I thought about this is that why would anyone want to shrink the block size? So say we had a 2 megabyte block size and say there are only enough transactions to fill half of it. Well, that only uses up 1 megabyte of storage space. So what's the problem? Why would you ever want to shrink it back to 1 megabyte? Well, I think the answer to that is that having an upper limit on the block size prevents spam. And it also allows, having a limit, it creates scarcity of block size storage. So it puts a limit and it rations the resources to the highest bidder. So I think that's the reason to have an upper block size limit rather than just allowing it to be unlimited. So what we'll do is we'll have to keep an eye on CoinDance to see how popular this proposal is, and we'll see that when the graph starts to signal or to display how many miners are supporting it. And we'll also see if it takes any votes away from SegWit2x, which is the current leader. So I thought that was very interesting for the main story for today. That's all I've got to say about it, really. I will link to the GitHub article in the video description. There's quite a bit of techie stuff in there, but I think I've picked out the major things that you would want to know. The other thing is when it's going to activate, which I haven't actually calculated that yet. It does give a block height when the nodes can begin implementing it, but I haven't calculated that yet. Maybe I'll do a follow-up and calculate that. Alrighty then, that's all I got for you today. If you like this episode of the Cryptoverse, please hit the like button. If you disliked it, you can go ahead and hit the dislike button. Please leave me a comment below with some feedback and get subscribed so you don't miss any content from the Cryptoverse. And of course, please help me to boost cryptocurrency adoption by supporting the Cryptoverse by going to cryptoversity.com/podcast and becoming a patron. You can also send me a tip via PayPal or any cryptocurrency using the link in the video description. You can buy yourself an online course, or you can become an affiliate, get yourself a referral link, and then commission for referring people through Cryptoversity. And also a brand new feature on the podcast page is if you would like to request a show topic, if there's a specific project or news story that you would like me to cover in an episode of the Cryptoverse, go make a request using this dedicated form. That will come through to me, and then I'll take a view on it and see if it's something I want to include in a future video. So that's all I've got for you today. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Cryptoverse Market Roundup and another episode of the News and Commentary Show. So until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.